Hello, if you can see me, I'm waiting for confirmation that we are live. Oh, and I've got it. Hello, everybody. How's it going out there? Dane here from Moving to Canada. We are going live here to bring you the results from the latest Express Entry draw. Draw just happened just a few minutes ago. So we are going to go over the draw results, share some of the news that's come out with you guys. Here joining me today is the editor of Moving to Canada, Mr. Hugo O'Doherty. How are you doing, Hugo?
I'm good, Dane. Doing fantastic.
Excellent. Uh,
And you?
I'm doing. I'm actually very cold. My room. It's winter here in Canada, and I haven't really
Yeah,
adjusted my heat yet. But it's like definitely full blown winter. I don't know if you feel
December
that
is
in Montreal.
yes. Yeah. We're minus something today, some single digit minus temperature,
Yeah,
which is sort of par for the course at this time of year in Montreal.
yeah. I think that's.
Yeah.
We just have to kind of accept that this is this is where we live now.
Like I've got some friends who this is their favorite time of the year. The first big snow means get out your skis and your skates and whatever else, and they look forward to it and they get depressed in April. So depends on your personality and what you look forward to. Some people love winter.
Yeah, and I really don't mind it. Once we get into it, I also love skiing. Like, there's a lot of things you can do in winter as long as you learn how to not be cold. Like, wear I should have worn something heavier for this. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're getting away from ourselves here. We are here today to talk to you folks all about the latest Express Entry draw. Just took place just a few minutes ago, so we're going to jump into the draw results and our analysis of those. But if you guys do have any questions about Express Entry, if you got questions about Canadian immigration, feel free to pop them in the comments. We will come back and answer a few of your questions here at the end of the live stream. But Hugo, let's jump into it. We just had the Express Entry draw take place. Can you tell our viewers how many invitations were issued and how significant is that number?
5,000 invitations are issued today. Now, a lot of those people will have already received their invitation, probably. Some people, it might land later today in the afternoon. So 5,000 is the number. That is the joint highest of all time. And it's actually the third draw in a row that it's hit uh, that threshold. So 15,000 invitations in the last three draws, three instances of 5,000. And the CRS cutoff, which I think is the figure that most people would be interested in, remains 469. Dane, what can you tell us about 469? What does that mean in the context of 2020 and Express Entry and all that?
Right. So if we look big picture at all of 2020, it is at the lower range of what we've been seeing when candidates in all programs are considered. For the most part, when it's been all candidates considered in a draw, the CRS score cutoff for 2020 has been up in the 470s somewhere. So
Mm,
469 is lower in the big picture, but in the small picture, which I know is probably what a lot of people care about, it's going to look like that score hasn't moved in the last two
yeah.
weeks, which it hasn't. It was 469 back on the last draw on November 25th. It's 469 today. One of the positive things that we can say about that is that the tie breaking rule has moved back by another 4 months. So on November 25th, if you received your if you had a CRS score of 469 points and you had submitted your profile after the date of October 25th, you wouldn't have received your invitation. So that tie breaking rule has now jumped back by another 4 months. So we've shaved off about 4 months of profiles that were in the pool. So it hasn't really seemed to have a substantial impact. But for those of you who are sitting at 468, 467, there are reasons to be cautiously optimistic about the trajectory that the cutoff is taking. However, one of the other big factors influencing the CRS score cutoff is the frequency of draws. And that's something that we did want to talk about today. Hugo, can you tell our audience what should we be looking for in terms of the draw pattern for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think from mid-November to the end of the year, you're going to see some sort of deviations from the usual patterns. The usual patterns is every second Wednesday, right? Like that is sort of the default trend. Um, on November 18th and 25th, we saw draws. So that's not every second Wednesday. That's back to back weeks. And then we're now 2 weeks later from that today. If we were to jump ahead 2 weeks, I believe that's December 23rd. Yes, yeah, today's the
Yeah.
9th. Um, and although it's quite possible that there will be a draw that day, it wouldn't be a shocker if there wasn't one that day, right? And then you jump forward another week, December 30th. I mean, the Canada takes its federal holidays quite seriously, as it should, and the winter holiday season is coming up around then. Um, so there might be a draw in there, but it wouldn't be a shocker if there wasn't. So, like it wouldn't be a shocker if there was a draw this day next week, in order to sort of front load those invitations before the year is
Yeah.
out. So I suppose that the main takeaway is like watch this space, right? Um, I would, if I'm not a betting man, but I would say that the IRCC won't go 4 weeks without a draw. All right. So I think there will
Okay.
be a draw at some point in the next. I mean, it could be next week, it could be in 2 weeks, it could be in 3 weeks. I don't think they'll stretch it out to 4 weeks, but who knows? Um, and yeah, like there might be some sort of like irregular patterns over the next few weeks. And what we're seeing now is these big invitation rounds, 5,000, and the effect that that has had on the CRS threshold. 469 might seem like a high number, but in the context of the last few months, it's quite low.
Mm-hmm.
So if they keep that up, we'll either see it sort of flatline around now, potentially go down a bit. It might go up, but uh, higher invitation numbers and more regular draws together place downward pressure on the CRS threshold. So that's good news for candidates remaining in the pool, especially those, Dane, who have the potential to increase their score. And this is something that we always try to get across. If you're sitting on 450 something, 460 something, and you're like, oh, will I don't know, retake my language or maybe, brush up on my French that I learned in high school and maybe take a test in a few months, now's the time to start taking those things seriously, because the chances of the CRS threshold going down to like the 430s and 440s, as we saw, a handful of years ago, that is a remote possibility, and like emphasis on the remote there, I think. There's new ways to get points, and more people are entering the pool. Canada is a popular country. Um, in relative terms around the world, it's a country that people aspire to live in, and more people are joining the pool. So if you are in the pool and you have the potential to increase your score, I mean, now is the time to take that potential seriously, I think.
Yeah, and I've just pulled up. I showed everybody in our screencast here how you can find our guide on improving your CRS score there on the Moving to Canada website. We outline some different tips here for you. We give you'll see here some fast options, so things that you can do in the short term if you haven't done them already. Those are really great to take a look at if you haven't taken advantage of them. And then some slower options, longer term things that it might take you, a year or so if you are planning ahead or if you have your heart set on improving your CRS score. So there's lots of options there, and that's all
I'll tell.
there on the
Go on. Sorry.
Oh, that's all there, right, on the Moving to Canada website. You can hop over on the website. There's a link in the pinned comment, and then access that through the menu.
Sorry for jumping the gun there, Dane. I just got excited for a moment. We got an inquiry in from someone recently, who was looking for ways to increase their score, and sometimes it's so obvious it's like hidden. And this person basically had to make their partner the principal applicant. So they hadn't really thought of that yet,
Mm,
because their partner was younger, and just by virtue of getting more points for age, was actually the more competitive candidate. And that can make all the difference. So yeah, you don't have to necessarily go off and learn French from scratch. The answer to, your chances of getting an ITA might be sitting beside you on your sofa in your living room. It might be your partner. It might be that the fact that they're younger, and this like, I would bet that there are people out there in the world who haven't really, that point hasn't really gotten home yet. Like, uh, if you, whether you've got like, it's not just about your uh, work experience in particular fields. If it's skilled, it's skilled. It's all counted the same, right? And if someone's younger, other things being equal, they get more points. So
yeah.
that could be an option for a lot of people.
And we do have quite a few questions coming in here. I'll scan through a couple of them here quickly. Iman was asking us, do you think IRCC will conduct a draw after a week like it happened in 2019 and 2018? So I don't have the historical draw figures right in front of me, so I can't confirm that that's what happened in December of those 2 years. But as Hugo mentioned, we're expecting there could be some anomalies in the pattern over the next couple of weeks. We're not going to promise anything, but watch this space, and we will post an update if a draw happens next week.
Dane, I just brought that up. Iman, great question. December 11th and December 19th last year. So 8 days apart.
Yeah, but we did we saw those two draws sort of back to back in November last month. So I don't know if that offsets it. It's again like we're kind of trying to analyze something that is notoriously unpredictable.
Yeah.
Let's go on to another question here from Sumaya asking, how many years of work experience do I need to have for express entry? So Hugo, let's start with your basic eligibility. You don't not necessarily to be competitive to get your ITA, just to be eligible. How many years of work experience do you need?
1. And I'll first go with federal skilled worker. So let's assume that the person hasn't been working in Canada recently. You need to get at least 67 points through the federal skilled worker points grid. And I believe that 9 points are attributed to 1 year of skilled work. You must get those points. Even if you were to somehow accrue 67 by other means, there's sort of like a critical threshold, as in like you have to have a year of skilled work experience. So the answer to your question is 1, but the longer answer, Dane, as you've alluded to, is that the more skilled work experience you have, the more competitive you'll be. As an extension of that, if that work experience is in Canada, then you'll be even more competitive than if that work experience was outside Canada. But it's possible to get in the express entry pool with 1 year of skilled work outside Canada.
Right. And the one caveat I'm going to throw out there is if you happen to be applying through the Federal Skilled Trades Program, which we don't usually go into a lot of detail because it's not particularly common, but for that program, you do have to have 2 years of work experience in order to meet the minimum eligibility. Sumaya was also asking if they're asking, is it an obstacle if I don't speak French for express entry? Hugo.
It's not an obstacle per se. Most people who get invited don't speak French, but the government has given itself the mandate to increase the number of French-speaking immigrants who move to destinations outside the province of Quebec. I won't get into the ins and outs of Quebec immigration right now, but it is the government's goal to increase the number of French speakers residing, especially immigrants residing outside the province of Quebec, and therefore there are additional points for French speakers. But it shouldn't be necessarily an obstacle for those who don't speak French, and the vast majority of people invited don't speak French. But we'll see how that trend continues into the future now that there are additional points, even more additional points available for French as of just a few weeks ago.
Right. So, yeah, to recap there, French, not a mandatory requirement, but can definitely be a bit of a boost there. And one last question here from Aisha, who's asking, is it mandatory to get a 6 in IELTS? I have 10 years of experience in the banking sector, but my IELTS score overall is 5. So Aisha, the language requirements vary depending on which of the express entry aligned programs you're applying for. As somebody who has banking experience, and I'm guessing that you're not residing in Canada, so you're applying with foreign work experience, you're presumably going through the Federal Skilled Worker Program, which has a hard requirement for language tests to score what's equal to the Canadian language benchmark of level 7. On IELTS, that does equal 6 in all 4 categories: speaking, reading, writing, and listening. If even one of your components is below a score of 6, then unfortunately you won't be eligible for express entry. And as we just mentioned, in regards to work experience, in regards to language proficiency, these are just the minimum requirements. Again, if you want to be competitive, you're likely going to have to score much higher than just the bare minimum. For language tests, we usually suggest aiming for a Canadian language benchmark of level 9 or higher. On IELTS, that's equal to an 8 in listening, a 7 in speaking, 7 in reading, 7 in writing. Great. So I feel like we've gotten a good number of questions coming in today, which is kind of fun. So Hugo, I think we've pretty much covered everything that we wanted to today. Do you have anything else you'd like to add in here?
No, just like I hope we're back doing another live stream before the end of the year.
Yeah, me too,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
don't get to work together in the same space anymore, so this is the only time that I get to see you.
Oh, it's not because I'm looking forward to seeing you, Dane. It's because that would mean there's been another draw.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's well, audience, thanks so much for tuning in. Yeah, thank you for tuning in, everyone. We got through most of your questions today, but stay tuned because we'll take some more questions next time we go live. Quick recap of the draw results for people who missed it at the beginning. We had another express entry draw take place today, 5,000 more invitations to apply. The Sierra score cutoff held steady at 469 points, and candidates in all programs were considered in today's draw. For more information, you can check out our latest reporting by clicking the link in the pinned comment. Thank you, Hugo, again for joining me on our live stream. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure.
And thank you to all of our audience members for tuning in. We'll see you next time there's a draw or another important Canadian immigration update. Bye.
Bye.